A couple years ago, I had the opportunity to be a marathon pacer. This meant that I wouldn't be racing, but that I would agree to run a comfortable pace for me so that somebody else could achieve their goals. My co-pacer and I would follow some prescribed paces that would allow for a warm-up, it would allow for uphills and downhills, it would allow for making up time in the middle and slowing down in enough time to finish strong. Since we were taking care of all the details, it meant that the people following would just need to concentrate on the task at hand, which is finishing the race. It sounds pretty easy, but one thing I realized was that it's going to require practice. I was used to running my race, but I really didn't know if I could get through a whole marathon running somebody else's pace. And then I remembered the first time that I qualified for Boston myself, it was largely because a pacer helped me. I remembered that all I had to do was listen and follow his lead. He showed me the places I needed to speed up, the places I needed to conserve energy. He was comforting the whole time and just filled me with the confidence that I needed to do what I needed to do. Thinking back on that experience made me realize, you know what, this is something that I want to do. I want to serve in the way that I was served.
If you don't know Jason Mills, the young man that's put together these video introductions in this series, he is just one of the finest guys you'll ever know. Jason's one of our music directors, plays guitar here at Lenexa, but also got a lot of talents in other areas. It's aggravating that he runs marathons. I don't know why, but that's just aggravating for some particular reason. But what he talked about today springs perfectly into what I want us to talk about, this idea of pacing. Last week, we looked at being prepared to worship, and we talked about the fact that in any crowd or any church or any marathon, if you will, there are three sets of people. There are critics, who largely are folks that have never done it themselves, but they want to tell everybody else how to do it. Then there are spectators, people that are just gathered to kind of watch and see what's happening, gawk a bit. And then there are participants that are actually in the race, that are actually in the game, that are actually on the field. And we didn't spend a lot of time last week talking about how do you participate? How do you move from critic or spectator to participant? That's what we're going to do today. So find your notes, wave them at me. Greetings to everybody at Lenexa, Speedway, the three sets of guys up at Lansing, medium, minimum, and maximum security. And by the way, John Oker is here at Lenexa today. He pastors those guys up there. I'm about to embarrass the hooey out of him. John, would you stand? Bless you. John is just extraordinary guy who does a ton of work, and so blessed by that. And then we've got folks on the internet. We got folks in India and South Africa and Thailand. We got some folks down at Mission House at KCK. God's just been good, and we're grateful for that. Take notes. Here's the big idea for today's teaching. You cannot follow Jesus without becoming a servant. I want you to write in the blank there for servant, and then I want you to circle cannot. Cannot. I did not say might not. I did not say should not. Cannot. You cannot claim to be a follower of someone and not do the main thing they do. Jesus is a servant. If you're following Jesus, you become a servant. Now, if you're critiquing Jesus, you don't have to serve. And if you're spectating, watching Jesus, you don't have to serve. But if you want to participate in what Jesus is doing, it's about service. This passage is a fun one out of John chapter 12. Jesus starts with listen carefully. Before we read on, I want you to grab what he's doing right here. He's using a phrase to get his disciples' attention. What phrase did your parents use with you that meant you better listen up? What phrase was that? I mean, was that, look me in the eye, and they grabbed you by the chin and got real close? Or in my house, it was all three of your names used together. Danny, Ray, Southerland. That meant pay attention, you're about to die. Was basically the translation. Go ahead and share with somebody what was the phrase in your house growing up that got your attention. Go ahead. What phrase did your parents use? Yeah. If you don't remember one, what phrase does your spouse use now? Yeah. That'll work as well. Jesus really wants to get the disciples' attention. So he's saying, hey, listen up, guys. Listen carefully, he says. Unless a grain of wheat is buried in the ground, dead to the world, it is never any more than a grain of wheat. What's he telling them? You've got to die. You've got to die. If you want to become everything that you can be in Christ, you've got to die. But if it is buried, it sprouts and reproduces itself many times over. In the same way, anyone who holds on to life just as it is destroys that life. But if you let it go, reckless in your love, would you underline those 4 words? I love that phrase. Reckless in your love. You'll have it forever, real and eternal. If any of you wants to serve me, then follow me. Then you'll be where I am, ready to serve at a moment's notice. The Father will honor and reward anyone who serves me. How do we move from critic or spectator mode into participant? How do we get in the game? How do we get in the race? How do we get into kingdom service? 3 things we got to choose, guys. They're all in this passage very clearly. Number 1, choose to deny yourself. Choose to deny yourself. Listen to what Jesus said in Matthew. Whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves, take up their cross, and follow me. Deny yourself, take up your cross. Would you underline, take up their cross? Why does anybody take up their cross? One reason, to die. One reason, you don't carry a life-size cross unless you are ready to die, unless you are willing to die. Deny yourself literally means it's not about me, it is about Jesus. I'll die to me so I can live for him. Notice how Paul says it in Philippians. Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourselves, not looking to your own interest, but each of you to the interest of others. I love the heartbeat of the national campaign, I am second. My struggle is they can't count. As a Christ follower, you are not second. You're third. Jesus is first, others are second, I am last. In fact, this should be in your notes, and I didn't put it in, write it in the side margin. The way you serve God is by serving others in his name. Not on the screen, not in your notes, just scribble it somewhere. The way you serve God is by serving others in his name. God first, others second, I am third. I'm third. In fact, it says it in the verse. Do nothing out of selfish ambition. If my goal is to promote me, whatever I'm doing cannot be of God. Listen up, guys. We live in a world that's full of self-promotion. Write a resume that's bigger than you are. Please don't. Please don't. Number 1, how do I do that and expect God to bless something that is not the truth? And number 2, what happens when I get the job and they figure out I'm not the guy on the resume? They're taught this all the time. When Jared showed up, my son, for one of his college interviews, college tryouts, this was a place that was offering him a scholarship, and his stats said 6'1", 235. The coach looked at him and said, well, this is different. You're actually as tall as your resume says. I mean, we're just taught to stretch. We're taught to multiply. But look at the next piece. Vain conceit. Vain conceit. That basically is, let me tell you how good I am. Let me tell you about me. The common statement today is, if you can do it, it ain't bragging. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. If you can do it, you don't have to tell anybody you can do it. It's not about us, guys. In fact, write this in. 3 choices of who we will serve. Everybody in this room has 3 choices. Yourself, that's the first choice. By the way, this is my default setting and your default setting. Last week we talked about default setting. Are you a critic or a spectator or a participant? And I told you guys I'm a critic. Every human being's default setting is on yourself. Had the privilege last night of keeping my 4-year-old grandson and my 1-year-old grandson for about 6 hours and got lots of wonderful examples of yourself. You know, every toy they both wanted, everything one wanted to do, the other one wanted to do. I mean, it was just this little competition. Who taught them that? Obviously, their mom and dad. No, the mom and dad didn't teach them that. These wonderful, cute little gifts from God are also sinners. And sinner literally means self-centered. It literally means I put me first. Y'all want to have some fun today. Turn to your neighbor and say, based on that, no, don't say this part, but based on that definition, say this to them. I'm a sinner, you're a bigger one. Go ahead. Tell them. Wonderful freedom in that. Wonderful freedom in that. It's a natural default setting to put yourself first. But secondly, we can put your own family and friends. You can serve them. The natural tendency, serve yourself. Some of us will serve our own family and friends. Now, after you've written this down, look this way. Congratulations on getting beyond yourself. But anybody can serve the people they like. We've all got a few favorites, you know? I mean, there's an in-law we like and there's an in-law we put up with. People are looking down the row at each other. I love it. There's a neighbor we like. There's a neighbor we put up with. There's a friend that we really enjoy hanging out with. There's a friend that, yeah. Nothing wrong with likes and dislikes. Nothing wrong with those levels. But we serve them all. And if I only serve a very close crowd of people around me, that's still not what Jesus is talking about. It's better than just serving yourself, but you're still just serving a limited circle. Who do we serve if we want to go all in? Anyone Jesus puts in your path. Anyone. Anyone Jesus puts in your path. Now think about this, guys. You remember the story of the Good Samaritan? We often know that story, but we forget the context where it occurs. Let me give you the context quickly, because the context determines the meaning of this particular story. A man comes to Jesus one day and says, what is the most important rule in all the Old Testament? What's the most important commandment? And Jesus, that quick, without needing to think, says, love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength. And the second is also important, love your neighbor as yourself. Now, don't miss this. Jesus just summarized 39 books of the Old Testament in 2 statements. Wow, that's not Cliff Notes, that's Jesus Cliff Notes. I mean, that is amazing. He just condensed it down. And then this guy, wanting to push it even farther, said, okay, I buy it. Love God first, love my neighbor second. Who's my neighbor? He's asking, who am I responsible to love? The neighbors I like, the neighbors I don't. The close neighbors, the far away neighbors. The family that's cool, the family that's not cool. Who do I have to love? And he tells them the story of the Good Samaritan. You guys remember the story? Man walking down a deserted road one day, literally is robbed and beaten and left to die. Rabbi comes along, sees the man in the road, crosses to the other side. Teacher of the law comes along, sees the man in the road, probably thinking, I don't want to get involved. This is dangerous, crosses to the other side. A Samaritan comes along. What's the big deal about Samaritan? An immigrant, a foreigner, somebody that was an enemy of that particular country, comes along, sees this Jewish man laying there bleeding to death, takes care of him, bandages him up, puts him on his donkey. I can see the guy just laying across the donkey. Walks the way to the man back to town, puts him in a close-by hotel where he evidently knows somebody and says, you guys care for him. I'm on business. I'll be coming back through. I'll pay whatever I need to pay. And at the end of the story, Jesus said, which one was a good neighbor? A neighbor is anyone Jesus puts in your path with a need you can meet. Anyone. That's who I'm supposed to serve. So it's not just serve me, it's not just serve my favorites, it's serve anyone who comes along. I cannot tell you how much fun I have had putting that into practice in my life. Just to start the day by saying, Lord, I'll serve anyone you send along. I mean, it's a blast, guys. It literally is. To get up in the morning saying, don't know who you got? Bring them on. A couple of years back, several years back now, I made the decision I'm going to serve some stranger every day of my life. Not just my own, not just my church. I'm going to serve some stranger every day of my life. And I could tell you 100 stories that have been fun. Here's one. I'm in a conference in Orlando in April. We've been busy all day in seminars and meetings. I've been hanging out with pastors all day, and I hadn't really had a chance to serve anyone. We go to a banquet that night where 400 people are going to come through a buffet line, and they're having barbecue. Florida barbecue does not rank. I won't even go there, but it's barbecue, and it's meat, and it's got sauce. So, it's not all bad. 400 people coming through a buffet line. I'm thinking, this is purgatory. Being eternally stuck between where you were and where you want to be. It's going to take forever. And I noticed they're coming down one side of the line, and I thought, haven't served anybody today, here we go. So I walked up to the person in the line where they were coming through. I said, hey guys, we can go down both sides of this table. We're going to make this go a whole lot faster. You guys want to hurry up and eat? Oh yeah, okay. Then let's go down both sides. Got that going. They had the dessert first, which means somebody picked up a plate of dessert and then had their other plate in their hand, and they've got to serve it into it, and it's awkward and it's slow and it's holding us up. So I just take the whole dessert cart. I have always wanted to take the whole dessert cart. And I put it down at the other end, and I say, hey, this is going to work better. We'll make this work. And by the way, then I thought, well, you know what? That'll still slow it down. They got to get a drink and their plate and their dessert. I'll just move it somewhere else and tell them, hey, make your way to your table. As you're finishing up, we'll bring dessert to you. So I'm just having fun, just serving, just doing all this stuff. Well, nobody needs dessert yet, but they're getting to their table a lot quicker, and the crowd's kind of getting happier. So grab a pitcher of iced tea, grab a pitcher of water, make my way around. By now, I'm having a blast. I'm getting to serve 400 people. I walked back to the kitchen staff and said, I need a tray. I'm going to pass out desserts a table at a time. By this point, the kitchen staff is so in love with me, I could have had prime rib. What is the point? The point is Dan is a total nut extrovert and he went bonkers. No. The point was there was an opportunity to serve. We miss 100 of those because we're shy or because we don't know what to do. Jump in. Find somebody to serve that doesn't know you and go for it. Turn to your neighbor and say, you can serve me anytime. Tell them, you can serve me. I might even serve you. Choose to deny yourself, number one. Number two, you ready? Choose to become reckless in your love. Choose to become reckless in your love. I literally chose this translation this week because this phrase means so much to me. Anyone who holds on to life just as it is destroys that life. But if you let it go, reckless in your love, you'll have it forever, real and eternal. Has anybody that's looked at your life ever thought you are reckless in love? I'm not talking about two teenagers that are infatuated. That's different. I'm talking about being so full of the love of Christ that you give it away with reckless abandon. You'll love people you don't even know yet because Jesus loves them. You'll serve people you don't know because Jesus serves them. I want you to say this out loud with me. Life is so not about me. Would you say it? Life is so not about me. Write it in your notes. What's it about? Life is so about giving myself away. The most blessed moments, the most joyful moments, the most Christ-like moments are when I'm giving myself away. When I'm doing something for my neighbor that I wasn't asked or expected to do. When I'm stopping on the side of the road to help somebody. When I'm pitching in with a person with an obvious need. When I'm going for it, when I'm serving them in Jesus' name. Being reckless in your love. Y'all remember the Life cereal commercial from years ago where the two older brothers are trying a cereal and they say, give it to Mikey. He likes everything. He'll eat anything. I'd love to be known as the Christ follower who will love anyone. Tough person to love, give him to Danny. He'll love everybody. Tough person to serve, give him to Danny. He'll go for it. Would it be awesome if our Father could say that about us? If he could deliberately bring hard to love, hard to serve, hard to like people into our lives because he knows that we'll pour out our love on them, we'll be reckless. Would it be amazing if we as a church became a church in Kansas City that was so reckless in our love that the word got out, show up at Westside, they'll take anybody? Show up at Westside, they'll love anybody. For some of you going, I'm a little offended at that. You need to be. I mean, if God will love you, he'll love anybody. Yeah? Look at this. God loves this. There's hope for you. If that word got loose, that we were reckless in our love and reckless with our service, we wouldn't be able to build buildings, start new sites, plant new churches fast enough. Because this world is looking for somebody that will unconditionally love them and demonstrate it by service. It's what Jesus did. He didn't just do it because it's who he is. He did it because it works. There's the character side of Jesus. It is who he is, to be loving and to be a servant. But there's the practical side of Jesus. He said, the world will know you are my followers by your love. Didn't say by your correct theology. Didn't say by your great programs. Didn't say by your huge success. By your love. We've got to get reckless in our love. Thirdly, after I choose to deny myself, after I choose to become reckless in my love, I must choose to develop a servant's mindset. Now, we're going to come back to this in a few weeks and teach on it further because there's a whole lesson here, and it's that important, and it's talked about in John 13 in the next chapter. But it's mentioned in this passage as well. I must choose to develop a servant's mindset. Look at what it says. Jesus says, be where I am, ready to serve at a moment's notice. Now, be where I am is not a physiological idea. It's a mental mindset idea. Be where I am. Think like I'm thinking. Have the state of mind that I have. We talked last week about we have the mind of Christ. It's an extension of that idea. Be where I am means this is where I am, ready to serve in a moment's notice. How does that translate? I cannot think of a more practical way to become a servant than what I'm about to tell you. Been doing this for years, having a blast with it. Write it in. Walk into every room as a servant. Every room. Now, I don't know how you walk into a room or a meeting or a new circumstance or a restaurant. I mean, some of us walk in going, who's in charge here? You know? We're looking for that. Some of us walk in going, I hope this is real plain what you're supposed to do. I need directions. Some of us walk in looking for a friendly face. Some of us walk in looking for somebody we know. We walk into rooms in our lives, circumstances in our lives, in different ways based on the circumstance, usually with a question. Here's the question I'm suggesting. Who has a need here that I can meet? Walk into the room as a servant. As a servant. Walk in saying, Jesus, who you got in here for me to serve? What you got in here for me to do? How am I going to have an encounter with you in this room, in this meeting, in this time? Who can I serve? Let me suggest 3 ways to do that, and we'll talk about it a little bit more. I've kind of used these 3 simple ideas to help me remember it, and they make a poem, but I didn't mean to. Apologies. See the need, write that in. Meet the need to help others succeed. We'll say it one more time. See the need. First thing when you walk into a room, Jesus, help me see these people the way you see them. Show me a need I can meet. Show me a need. Secondly, I will meet the need. Lord, you show it to me. I'm in. I'm in. And then finally, I want to help others in this room. I want to serve them, and I want to love them. When you walked into this campus setting today, or whatever setting you're in, wherever you're watching and participating in today's worship time, did you walk in saying, who needs to be encouraged in here? I'll encourage them. Who needs a smile? Now, the answer to that is everyone. Happy people like it because it makes them happier. Grumpy people need to get saved. Grumpy people need a smile. You walk into the room thinking, who's struggling that I need to be sensitive to? Lord, who has a need? Who has a need? See the need. And then, Lord, I'll meet the need. Whatever the need is. It's so much fun to show up going, Jesus, speak to me and I'll respond. Wow. This has changed my approach to meetings that I don't like, which is all of them. Okay? I'm not a meeting person. But when I go in going, okay, Lord, if I can't do anything else, I can look for a need and try to meet it. Meeting's better now. I got a purpose. I got something to do. I got a way to honor God. See the need, meet the need, help others succeed. It's literally the idea. Here's some other things Jesus said about being a servant. I want to touch on them and give us one last thought as we wrap up today. The greatest among you will be your servant, Jesus said. Wow. World says the greatest person will be in charge. World says that you bow down to the greatest person. Jesus says you bow down to become great. You become a servant. I love this next one. I did not come to be served, but to serve and to give my life as a ransom for many. The one who sat on the throne of heaven came and was born in a shack for the cattle and laid in a cattle trough. I grew up around cattle. Did some spring roundup stuff at my uncle's place. Cattle troughs are not neat places. He's willing to leave being in charge of the universe to come and be a servant, and we're not willing to serve. We're not following Jesus. The Father will honor and reward anyone who serves me. Above that word honor, I want you to write favor. Because that's literally what it means. The Father will favor anyone who serves me. Would it be awesome to see more of the favor of God? Would it be awesome for God to be able to trust us with people for us to serve? Maturity starts as a Christ follower when I move from being a consumer That's somebody who is served. To a contributor, that's someone who serves others. Maturity starts, we haven't arrived, but it starts when I move from being a consumer who is served to a contributor who serves others. I want to say two things to you as we wrap up today. First one is this. I want to give you a way to practice this idea of being a servant. Okay? Some of you are going, I'm ready. I'd like to serve. I'd like to jump in. We have some opportunities for you to practice, to try it out. In your bulletin today, everybody grab the bulletin. There are several tear-outs. The bulletin is different depending on what campus you're part of. There are some needs listed there in the Lenexa bulletin for Lenexa, some other needs listed up at Speedway for there. If you are interested in practicing this service idea, if you want to give this a shot, fill it in. You can drop it in the black boxes on the way out. Because service is both, God, I'll serve any individual you put in my path, and Lord, I want to find a way to serve my church. I want to find a way to serve and be part of reaching 1,000 families. That would be awesome. Second update I want to give you today is an all-in update, and it goes like this. Wow. Stinking wow. Families are being reached. God is moving. This place is mostly full, even in the summer. So blessed by this. But guys, the way you are giving right now is off the chart. We've had the strongest first 6 months we have had in any year by far. And it's because you're praying for those 1,000 families, you're inviting them, and you're giving way to go. Wow is my only response. Lastly, if you want to talk with someone today about being a servant or about committing your life to Christ, or you just need somebody to pray with you, both here and at Speedway and up at Lansing tonight, there'll be folks down front to talk with you, okay? Here at Lenexa, they're down front and to your left. At Speedway, they're down front on both sides. And John, I think you're just available to any of the guys at Lansing on Sunday nights. Serve somebody this week. Watch Jesus show up with his favor. God bless you guys. See ya.